Alrighty then. So, hello everybody and welcome to the Campaign 1 post-campaign wrap-up. I am here with my players, however, a few of them have hopped off to have quick conversations about their joint backstories for the post-campaign section of this, and I'll be getting into it. But just for the general announcement, thank you for all the artwork that's been done throughout this campaign. It's been absolutely amazing to work with all of that, and hopefully that will keep going forward for more artwork in the future. Thanks to Tabletop Audio for the free service that you provide and all the music that has been provided throughout the campaign, so that is all good. And yeah, this was done on Tabletop Simulator, and I've made all of the more recent maps that have otherwise appeared on here, and I do take commissions, but I will go back and I will see who is still about. So let's unmute. So who's still here? I see Sudz disappeared. Not sure where he's headed off to. Jamie, would you be okay to send him a message on Facebook and find out what happened to him? Yeah, just because he's just disappeared. I'm not sure where he went. Hello. We have lost a Sudz. I think he may have lost internet connection, so...
But you gained a Sam and a Harlan.
We did. Yeah. Unfortunately, we will not have an Infernal tonight, as he is unable to attend. However, he does send his regards, and he doesn't have any questions, but he is willing to reveal all of his backstory should it be asked. And I know what he wants to do over the course of his post-campaign setup. So, let me quickly find some relaxing music that isn't battle music, and oh yes, I do. Alright.
We fucking talked about this, Chris.
That's it. I'm out. I'm done. No, goodbye.
My campaign is over. It's done.
Sasha becomes the new BBG.
Except the DM's the one fighting her. Just as long as I don't do fire damage, I'll be fine.
Just the DM. Sasha Smashfist comes into the real world and beats up you.
Yeah, it's fine. I got a D4 plus or a D8 hit points. I'll be fine.
You need more than that.
Yeah, I don't know.
How's your constitution, Chris? Are you sure it's in the positive?
Yeah.
You sure?
You sure? I don't believe it. It's a lie.
Well, granted, you've got a hill giant's constitution, Sam, but I'd say I've got a
backhanded compliment I've ever heard. Fucking hell.
Well, I, on the other hand, probably have a little bit more of a ogre or a troll's constitution, I'd say.
I'm gonna go with a troll.
Definitely a fucking troll.
Yeah, well, you've got a skeleton's constitution, Jamie.
Yeah, so? One fabulous skeleton.
So Beck, is that you?
Been dragged off to do American things.
Ah, wonderful. Waving the flag and all that.
Yeah, and saluting.
Yep.
He said he doesn't know how long he's gonna be.
And singing the British anthem.
Yeah.
There's no good, peaceful ones. Where's my happy village one that I usually go to? I'll choose Burning Village if it comes to it. Let's get that one. No, that's the one I wanted. There we go. That's a very nice and gentle post-campaign song. So, last session. The last session. Our party of adventurers. Elsyan, Aleuir, Queglod, Prill, Sasha Smashfist, Malcom, Barrenlor, Bern, and Rook, Ironfist. Arriving in Adamanthia to do some shopping. The party was assailed and attacked by ancient dragons, as you do when you go on a diamond shopping trip for a market you crashed. But arriving in Oregon, the party showed up, and after they were assailed by dragons, fighting them off, using a few tricks up their sleeve, and facing Rengar in the final conflict, Elsyan strikes the final blow, with the obsidian blades at his side, each of them skewering and pinning the corpse of Rengar to the ground as the many souls he has consumed are released, along with his own, collected and reaped by End. With the conflict over, and the party breathing a sigh of relief as the dragons flee the area, the undead begin to fall and begin to be taken out far easier than before. The party relaxes slightly as Queglod sees the form of End float down and await her choice. With this, with the outstretched hand, Queglod goes with End, and her life is taken elsewhere, and her borrowed time debt is paid. With this, the party is left in the courtyard, before there are shouts, sounds of happiness, cheers and celebrations, as the soldiers, both from the Sanguine Sun, the Barren Lands, and those that remained within the city fighting and fending off the attack, arrive and spoke, beginning to cheer as the Dawn Marshals stand there victorious, with Ringar's corpse slumped and burning away. With this, the party decided on their next course of action, a drink, in their home tavern. With a simple teleportation taken, they teleport back to their home in Adamanthia, going back to the Shrouded Chalier, their inn and tavern for so long, as they gather up their friends, their co-workers, and rest up for the day. They otherwise enjoy a fresh meal, fresh drink, and begin to think about the next portion of their own personal campaign. Nothing grand, nothing amazing, something simple for each of them. Bern took to a unique lifestyle, heading further away from the rest of you, deciding that it be best that he distance himself from the rest of you, not out of spite, not out of pain, but out of the fact of who he was. The Sanguine Sun were discovered that day, and as such they had to go back into hiding. He, as a vampire, could not be seen as a Dawn Marshal. But a Dawn Marshal he was, and thus he chose to lead a life in a different world, heading to the ether and expanding his bank of iron to become an industrial mega-house for money and trade and storage. One not just suited for the Sanguine Suns, but for all across nations. A choice that he personally made. With this being built, he decided to relocate the entire thing, upping and leaving Vesh, not out of spite either, but out of choice, as he established and set up his own city within the ether, one that would bridge the gap between that one and a forgotten one of a bygone era, setting up a new home for people to use in the ether. And that is where he set himself up, spending some time, and over the next 10 years, maybe even 100 years, he built a gate, one that connected from the ether to the Feywild, one that connected him to his lover. With this, time went by, and maybe some children were had, it is uncertain, but either way, the connection was made, and the happy relationship between them flourished, as Bern helped out where needed for the older friends of his, being there when they passed on one after another, eventually leaving him due to his immortal age. With Bern's backstory concluded and forethought of what happens next, we move now on to Malcom. Malcom, the honoured prince of the Barrenlands, otherwise left, heading back to the Barrenlands with his people and his friends, taking Rook with him as he went. But, returning there, he had a number of tasks which he wished to complete, and as a result, he did. He otherwise became the honorary king of the Barrenlands, earning his name only through respect from the other tribes, guiding and helping them as best they can to resolve their own issues before taking up the mantle as king. He otherwise decided this, that over time he would pursue certain regal matters and would otherwise choose to expand the Barrenlands' relationship with the others, sending expedition and diplomatic teams down into the Alliance to assist them in the events of post-war dealings, making sure and snuffing out rebellions. Jamie, what is going on your end?
Sorry, I was just going out to the car, trying to work out how to mute this thing.
There we go.
Going for the tea.
He's going for the tea. He's going back to the Barrenlands, where there's tea and squatting holes. With
Filthy nation, utterly filthy nation.
With Malcom now taking up the mantle of king, he otherwise reached out to his own lover, Verdantius. With this, he had tried to re-establish a kinship between the tieflings of the two realms, one from the Elven Sanctuary, ones who dislike the Barren Lands for some reason or another, and the diplomatic mission took several years, eventually arriving at the conclusion that he could, in fact, marry and eventually have the relationship flourish with that whom he loved. However, with her younger lifespan not being the true lifespan that his own was, and also being the matter that with needing to set up some kinship between the Emerald Sanctuary, there were sore hearts between the two of them. It was difficult, but it worked. Eventually, it succeeded. With that, Malcolm's story is concluded, forming alliances and proceeding to try and be the better king that he could be, while still following the guidance of the Queen as best he could. Finding Shattercrest's old lair and discovering a variety of objects and small trinkets and bits and memories left behind, Malcolm's post-story comes to a conclusion. Who would like to go next?
I don't mind.
Go ahead.
I'm indoors now, so I don't have to worry about cars. Right. Well, after a hearty night with the rest of the party, I am going to return home with Malcolm. I'm going to spend some time with my wife, produce another baby, because why not? Watch my family grow up, my kids grow up, and when the youngest hits about 18, I'm going to start travelling with the wife. Travel around the empire, show her the places we've been, catch up with old friends I haven't seen in years. And at the end of that journey, I am going to travel under Malcolm to the Alliance. I'm going to try and find who created my sword and learn forging and different techniques from the people in the Alliance. And that's probably where we'll settle down and spend the rest of our days.
Okay. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, why not? There are some things more pertinent to Sasha, but Sasha can cover them. There's after the meal, Elsyan spends more time in Adamantia, deciding to take on the words of Queglod with the make sure that the next lot aren't gonna have to guess like we did, and to start gathering information on pretty much anything and everything he can. Keep a stockpile of spells and their descriptions, and keep half an eye on the guild. We do have the Avengers Guild near the tavern that we own.
Mhm.
Someone's got to look after that. And by God, it shouldn't be Elsyan, but it is. Of course, Elsyan's going to be spending a lot of time with Sasha, doing that sort of thing. And of course, spend time with family, using teleport to get all over the place. To talk to his younger sister, spend time with her, try and regain that lost time he had with his parents. And with the elven psionics, just making sure that they're okay, and if needed, Elsyan's gonna step in if situations get hairy.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing. He's also going to be trying to figure out more about the scion of Maldoras and what his actual motivations are. Whether it is just being a spectator and using more for enjoyment or not.
Okay. With that, who would like to go next?
If you wouldn't mind.
Go for it.
Me.
Actually, Queglod, would you like to go first? I've got a rather overarching plan, and a few things that will tag in with other people, so I'm more than happy to go at the end if you'd prefer.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind. Well, having moved on to another world now, Queglod's ability to interact with what remains of the world after our victory is limited, but there are a few tasks that still remain. Namely, after Sasha's final defeat of her, what's the dragon's name again?
Utah.
Newtar. Is after the defeat of Newtar, Queglod will be on hand to ensure his soul is delivered to its final resting place. A long amount of time will be spent on tracking down the survivors from the Wingless, not to interfere with what remains of their lives, but simply to watch over them and, when the time comes, ensure that they are delivered to the Raven Queen in peace. Similarly, for the rest of the party, if and when the time finally comes for them. For many of them, that may be in not too long. For many, that could be centuries away yet. But eventually, when the time comes, they will be granted mercy and respite. Finally, true to her word, Queglod will allow Dalman an opportunity to set right his affairs in the world. A few years, possibly, perhaps a little longer, perhaps shorter, depending on how things are going. But while he works to make it a better place for mystics and to ensure that his own family will be in a safe position, he will be left alone to his work. But once that is over, Queglod will visit him, not out of revenge, but simply to set matters right and deliver him to the Raven Queen's mercy.
Okay. With that, Sasha.
Well, it's quite a few things. First of all, Arcathun is now empty. Using the godly power gifted to me from my goddess Atoran, I will be taking the opportunity to enter there before all of the items can be stolen, and bring back the horde of the dragons. With that, I intend to use that money to rebuild the brewery on Bubble Hill, and to add on my own forge to it, remaking what once was lost, making it my own again. In light of that, I will be hunting down Nutar, the last dragon to have lived in Arcathun, and the murderer of my entire family. Everyone will, of course, be invited, should they wish for their viewing
Ooh.
pleasure, watch me fist fight a dragon and win.
Woo, dragon murder. We love it.
Um,
You go, Sasha. You're beautiful.
woo woo. I like to imagine that even though we haven't had the contact contact for it, I like to imagine Queglod's watching me proudly as I beat the crap out of a dragon. I will be aiming for the penis.
Do
Moving
dragons
on.
have penises?
I have to assume somewhere. Whatever looks most like one on the dragon, I'll work from there. Anyway, point being, after this is done, Sasha will take the opportunity to have the party visit Queglod in the Shadowfell. Just the once, to let her know that what we're doing, make sure she's doing all right in her new post, and to ask the Raven Queen for a favor. Seeing as I am now a powerful cleric, seeing as I now have the means and the time to gather the appropriate resources, I want to try and bring back as many of my family members as she'll let me have. Obviously, many of them have been dead for a long time, but there were children, young people who had their whole lives ahead of them taken. I go to beg the Raven Queen for her permission to bring them back should they be willing. I will be honest, I don't 100% know what her answer is, Chris.
No, I'll cover that in a moment.
Right. Whatever the case may be, anyone I can bring back, I shall spend my time physically and physically hunting diamonds, be that through mining or be that through not stealing, acquiring in morally grey ways whatever reagents are required, diamonds, appropriate alternatives. From there, we move on to mine and Elsyan's story. As time goes on, we will have some children. 2 twins, in fact. One of them will be taken in by Elsyan's psionics. The other, I will attempt to teach the forge. Their paths from that point, from what they initially learn, are their own. But there will be no doubt be other stragglers, those adopted into my makeshift family, to help me run the forge, stock the brewery, and any proceeds from my forge and the brewery will be used to assist Elsyan in setting up a guide for any future Dawn Marshals, and to make sure that no one forgets what has happened in our legacy. Time will pass, and I will remain a devout follower of Atoran. Perhaps in my later days, going to serve her directly before I am taken, presumably, by the Raven Queen.
Okay.
I want it known Elsyan has the big sad now.
Yeah.
Okay. With everyone's stories rounded out, with Rook otherwise finishing off his life and legacy, staying in the Alliance and learning various tricks, learning the maker of his blade and understanding its making but not comprehending it to its entirety. Rook fulfills his life to the best he can, eventually becoming a grandfather of his own, and watching the rest of his generations begin to pass on to the next life as he has settled down elsewhere. But he hears of the exploits of Malcom, the events that transpire in the Alliance alone, and everything that occurs there. All good things that Rook has helped him. Things he's helped make and craft and bringing the end to the curse for his clan. With Elsyan's work, the psionics flourish within the Elven Kingdom. Individuals come forward after the plan begins to be set in stone, and individuals begin to be bolstered by new strength. Although it may take centuries for these individuals to flourish into true warriors or people with potential, with the acceleration of the world as it currently stands, they're more confident in the appeal of psionics than they were before, as people feel comfortable to come out of their shell and speak about them more openly. While Sasha resetting up her legacy on Bubble Hill, the legacy now a standing point, a small settlement that has been re-established, and going and speaking to the Raven Queen, being given a single permitted chance for those who go with her and her to return to the mortal realm, and that the next time they go there, they will not be allowed to leave. With this made clear, Sasha sets in motion her plan for bargaining, and does, begging the Raven Queen to allow who can be allowed to return. The Raven Queen creates a comprehensive list of a few individuals, ones with not necessarily more potential than the others, but individuals who did not deserve to be snuffed out so soon in their life. Thus, those that were young, and now their souls have aged given the time, will be allowed to be returned to the world, inheriting an additional 4 children, technically brothers, sisters and cousins of Sasha, but as far as Sasha and Elsyan are concerned, their children also. Teaching them and raising them in their own ways, again, they flourish and spread their wings, heading elsewhere. Oregon is rebuilt by the hands of some helpful donations thanks to the overwhelming coin that is earned through Sasha's keep. But ultimately something good that comes of it. And with Queglod doing the duties of the Raven Queen, an everlasting life lying before her, claiming the souls of the relevant individuals, and setting in stone the motions and words, assisting Elsyan in his construction of this guideline for the next Dawn Marshals, and making it abundantly clear that anyone can be Dawn Marshals, and that those individuals that are next may come from anywhere. With that and the story rounded out, for the coming future at least, the Empire settles and rebuilds itself. But now I believe it is time for us to return to the beginning of the story and visit the questions that people may have regarding the story as it was. So, a reminder for those who weren't there, or for those who didn't watch it, or for one reason or another were unaware of this happening. Let us begin our story in Adamanthia. The party, as it otherwise stood in the past, behold, Elsyan, Sasha, and Queglod, standing in Adamanthia's centre, a burning building before them, had no idea what was going on, and an elemental that was being rained on. The party fought it, killed it, and left. They were hired by the Phoenix to gain their trust. Working with Malcom, they headed to Oaksmith, a small town off of the edge of Adamanthia. From there, they entered the Wandering Forest, hunting down an otherwise skeletal pyromancer, coming across various creatures and killing the pyromancer once and for all, before discovering the main lair and otherwise the remains of the Dawn Marshal's tomb. From there, Lighthouse was claimed, and the quest had begun. With that, the party left that place, heading back to Adamanthia, and proceeding to continue on with their various journeys, filling out their tasks and completing quests here and there for different individuals, and going and clearing a Taratan nest nearby. The party had otherwise gained a significant amount of power, before deciding that the next portion of their journey should take them further afield. But before that could happen, the Harvesters' Festival would begin, where difficulties evolved and began. An evil force approached, striking in an attempt to destroy the Dawn Marshals, it would seem, and killing off the leaders of Adamanthia. The party fought and defeated Kisrin for the first time, and her Geists, defeating the individuals at hand that may have been causing these issues prior. They saved Professor Flynn the time before, and now they would defeat the Celestial or the foe Celestial that stood before them, and the war would be ignited. So, are there any questions that the party has regarding the first section of the campaign?
I don't think so. It all seems straightforward, unless there's something we're missing.
Is the dude dead?
Which dude?
The dude we apparently killed.
The Pyromancer.
No. The guy,
The governor.
governor.
Guy in the burning house. Thought he'd
Oh,
get some
no.
survival.
Rogan Blacktooth escaped alive,
Yes!
otherwise fleeing elsewhere. However, he was later killed for being a captured individual under the Cult of Charred Bone. The Cult
Oh.
of Charred Bone.
Right.
The Cult of Charred Bone in question was the organization that Ringar worked for. However, the Sirens are bound by duty not to speak up, and so him being an infiltrated Siren from the Alliance didn't say that he was on their side. And when he did, they didn't believe him because he broke code. As a result, he was torn to pieces by Drakes in the main base of the Cult of Charred Bones.
So he got team killed.
Yeah, because it's against code to say that you're a Siren, but at the same time,
Oh,
he couldn't say that he was because when he did, wouldn't have mattered.
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Exactly.
Well, sucks to suck.
Yep.
How about next time just don't be evil?
Yeah.
Yeah, worked pretty well for us.
Time I was.
Oh,
That
one
was.
other question. This might just be me forgetting things, but the Pyromancer,
Mhm.
who was he working for in the end?
The Pyromancer was working for. In the end, he was working for Kisrin at the time.
Okay.
Kisrin had sent him to otherwise take care of you guys, and that was the initial intention for it. It had been manipulated in such a way that effectively it worked in a very roundabout way, because your parents were working with Kisrin and the Amber Grin since the beginning, and where you had come along your journey, which you forgot due to the mind wipe, you had no idea what was going on. But Delman and Chronicle had set it up so that the Pyromancer would attack the manor, and this would mean that they'd be able to take out the High Chancellor, the Dawn Marshals, and some powerful enemies. However, due to the events of what happened, none of that came to pass. So they were used and played for suckers. But in the end, when you did kill him, he didn't die. He was returned back to the Alliance. Somewhere you don't know. He may have been in the Force in Oregon. That is a question that you don't know. Any further questions?
Not really about the beginning of the campaign, but well, we met Aleuir. Is Aleuir alive?
Ah, yes.
I kind
The
of
High
stopped calling
Marshal.
him because I worried every time I called him he was in a dangerous situation, and I just
Yes.
made it worse.
Aleuir is indeed alive. It is very difficult to kill him.
Hooray!
I will say that much. He
Hooray
is
for
very much
He was
alive.
Sonic, wasn't
To a degree.
he? No. Yes. Oh, he had the...
Question, like, when we say alive, is he alive and well?
Yes, very much so.
Is he secretly working for the fucking Alliance?
No, he's not working for the
Okay.
Alliance.
Okay, you pulled
one.
that one on us. We have to
See-
be careful now.
See, I like the Chris just going, well, another one.
No.
Another one.
No, the
Traitors? Another one.
Aleuir was on your side from the beginning, but at the same time he was also on his own side. We'll get to that if you remember to ask the question when it comes up, because there are still some
Yeah, I'm
untitled.
asking the question now. When it comes up, please tell us.
Okay, fine.
Yes.
When we get there, we'll get there. Let me just open the document.
We'll
so I
get
can
there
get
when we get
get
there.
Exactly.
Are we there yet?
No, not yet. I will
Alright.
say one thing of note with regards to your story for the beginning of it, because the backstory at the beginning of when I told the players to prepare for campaign 1, I told them prepare a vague backstory, but don't prepare too much. The beginning of the campaign started 2 months prior to you guys meeting. On the map, the people watching will be able to see, the party met up in different locations. Elsyan met up with Queglod and Behold and Chronicle in Basildon. From there, they went north to Candradon and along the road further until they got close to Goladon. When they were in Goladon, they met Sasha, who had come down from the mountains on her little pilgrimage and journey. From there, the party continued on as they had otherwise met, and they were a group of 5. You were given some aid by Delman to go hidden. In this particular instance, the mind wiping had been taking place. Elsyan thought that his
Mother was a psycho
Well-
bitch.
you didn't think that she was quite that yet.
Oh.
You were at the stage where, with your backstory, where you had otherwise inflicted, or where you'd otherwise killed your brother by Delman's hand, you understood at that moment that you needed Delman's help to make things right. So you supported Delman. You didn't go against him. For that reason, he helped you and you helped him. You proceeded to head up, travelling away from the Elven Kingdoms to allow Delman to work, to wipe you from Elven history effectively, which he did successfully with the Wish spell, which then backfired and caused a massive negative feedback on him.
Wonderful. That could be worse.
No,
No, it couldn't have.
However, while you were travelling past Goladon on your way to Kionendir, you were attacked by Queglod's parents as she was tracking down Queglod. With the attack of the undead against you, you all fended off the attack and asked Delman for assistance, where you otherwise had the bright idea of the Shadow Seeds. Each of you were given a Shadow Seed, and you were affected by the non-detection spell. However, Queglod's parents were still following you in person, and this is where things got bad. Just outside of Kionendir, on your way up into the frigid woodlands, you were attacked by them, captured, and ultimately your seeds were corrupted and set to detonate upon meeting the Emperor. With this in mind, you were otherwise released off into the wild, allowed to do what you wanted, but the seeds were doomed to explode and kill you potentially as time went on. As a result, you called Delman again for some assistance. He met with you in Kalinko alongside the governor friend who you never visited once, despite him being seeded in the early introduction backstory of Elsyan. You never went to Kalinko and you never visited him, but if you'd spoken to the governor...
You expected me to remember things.
This is fair. I mean,
We
your
learned
character didn't,
later
but
on.
yeah.
I wanted to know, and I did suggest multiple times going to Kalinko. We just never
It's fine.
did.
You just never did, yeah. But Kalinko in itself, heading, if you had headed there, you would have met the governor, who would have then asked how everything was going with Elsyan and family, because he would have been, he's none the wiser, thinking that everything was okay. You were sent to Adamanthia.
Oh, probably for the best. We would have probably killed the guy.
Probably, yeah.
How's the family? They're murdering me. No, they're not. Die.
That is true. But you were then sent to Adamanthia. There you met with Rogan. Not Rogan.
Rogel Dawn.
No.
Rogel.
No, it was Rogan Blacktooth. Yeah, I was right. Rogan Blacktooth, who otherwise then went along with Delman's plan. This would have allowed him to disappear, so as a siren, this allowed him to get away with some stuff which he otherwise couldn't beforehand, due to him being tied down a bit, but still having the influence he did. So, faking his own death and making sure the seeds were suppressed inside all of you, and making sure that Chronicle could disappear, and making sure that Delman could disappear as well. The plan worked perfectly, and the campaign began. That's what happened.
Hooray!
But that was the beginning of the story. So, if there are no further questions, we'll move on to the next part of your story from here.
Hold on. If you wouldn't mind waiting for 1 second while I go check if my food is ready.
Yeah, go for it. If you want, we can take a quick break, because I need to quickly go back. Need to take some stuff downstairs.
Alright then.
Alright. We will take a quick 1 minute break while Simon checks food and I be right back, and then we will continue.
Cool.
Don't go anywhere. The next arc will be an interesting one for the party.
God damn, I don't remember shit.
I wasn't even there. This is before me.
True.
I joined at level 8.
It was before your time, young one.
We still had Behold.
Yeah.
We our best joke was Behold counting to Apple. And we
Hey,
were happy.
That's still our best joke.
Yeah, fair.
Hey! Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's still got all the smart books. I like to imagine that eventually, after like years and years and years of us no longer being there, they'll discover it. And there's going to be like a museum of the marshals or something. And,
And
smart
here's the
books are gonna end
porn
up
they
in there.
read.
Yeah. And there was one. I couldn't count. Past Apple. But these are his books. Oh, no. Don't remember us for that.
Sasha is A-okay with being remembered for the smut books.
That's fine.
I
I live
mean-
in the Alliance now. It's not my problem.
I won't lie, Elsyan sort of ever just dropped any ideas of him becoming a politician, and I was just gone, fuck it, let's tell the whole truth, fully and completely. I don't care what dirty little things I leave in, it's staying.
Wait, what?
Every bit of information on us and the Dawn Marshals we can find.
Hey,
Even the weird shit.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is,
Especially.
you probably make a killing on selling that book.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
probably.
kind of want Elsyan to just like set up like a small museum, to be honest. And I mean, he's got at least a millennia. He should be fine.
That belongs in a
Yeah,
museum, points to
At
Sasha.
no point are we actually sure when Sasha dies, because I'm still going with Sasha just chooses not to die for a long period of time.
We'll see. We'll see what gets said.
I love the thought of you just... For 100 years, Sasha just keeps on. She just refuses to
Oh,
go.
100? She's not even 100 in the campaign. Like,
Yeah, please.
she's got 250 years, most likely.
No. I mean, past when she should have died.
Oh, 100 years extra. She's 450 years old. I'm still not bloodied.
it comes at Queglod's like,
There's Elsyan
come
just
on.
next to her, just waking up and going, "You're dead yet?"
You wish, you piece of shit.
Kisses affectionately on forehead. Goes to get the bedpan.
Okay, you realize I'm a 20th level cleric. Literally nothing can do anything to me. I'm immortal.
This is just Queglod going around their house every morning to figure out if one of
I
their
love
best
the
friends
thought.
has
I
died
love the
yet.
thought. Elsyan figures this out, and he just does a Theonos one day to leave, and just steps out, sees Queglod there. We have a talk, and then just every day after, Elsyan just steps out, shakes his head, and walks back.
I like to imagine Queglod there just going, just looking at a watch, going like, "Come on, god damn."
I'll come back later. Oh,
Not to-
man.
Oh.
Okay, so the next portion of the arc, with Adamantium now repairing itself and the incident clearing up, the party otherwise made their way out towards Skycalm Keep, a stone giant fortress which had been set up by these stone giants and a place where they could otherwise form an allegiance with them. They were already allied to Adamantia, but the party headed there nonetheless. Heading there, they met with the stone giants and found that various bits and pieces were needing to be done. Taking out a group of Etin, they received a guide to take them to the edge of the sun-kissed mountain. With this, the party came to a forest cursed by shadows and darkness. They otherwise fought for their survival and eventually met what looked to be a group of strange lizard folk, or Slitharians as they were known. Heading over and otherwise greeting them, forming a temporary alliance for the convenience of both of them, they otherwise fought the shadows together, before being sent on their way towards the sun-kissed mountain. Heading through the forests, the cold and frigid weather setting in as winter was on its way. The party otherwise arrived at the sun-kissed mountain, going past a gigantic three-headed dog that single-handedly took down an ancient white dragon, and the dragon knights that were travelling with it.
Were we supposed to deal with that?
Nope. The three-headed dog otherwise passed on by. Party wanting pets didn't get them, and moved on towards the sun-kissed mountain. Heading inside, they entered the gilded halls. There, they fought against various creatures and shadows, and otherwise formed an agreement with Maverick Dawn, the creator of the artifacts of the Dawn Marshals. With this, the party otherwise went below to fight the various things that lay in wait, the bits that had tarnished the gilded halls, meeting with the shadows, the caged creatures that otherwise shouted and screamed from above. As they met and fought the being of enmity, the first of 4 creatures, but they didn't know that at the time, as the illusions of Queglod's parents sang the songs and otherwise spoke taunts to the party. With this, the party otherwise moved past, defeating the being of enmity for the first time, and moving on to the final fight. There they fought against him, but all of them were captured in his spell, except for Behold. There, Behold, and everything that he had done wrong over the several years, his life had been torn up, right there and then, made raw and painful to him. With the party returning and Behold breaking under the pressure, the party fought and slew the being of enmity. But Behold had died in the conflict, with the Raven Queen offering salvation, a way to be free of this pain. Behold took it, and his soul was laid to rest amongst the Raven Queen's court. Later, he joined the Eternal Battlegrounds, and eventually became a wonderful commander and leader to the fighters who otherwise led that force out and were fighting the good fight in the Shadowfell. With this, the party now, with the loss of Behold, received the information about the other Dawn artifacts, carrying 2 of them at the time, having lost Chronicle beforehand. The party was sent back to Adamanthia, and there they otherwise did a few smaller things around the place. Now, Rook, remind me, you and Bern joined after the winter, correct?
During the winter, because I was fighting while I was stuck in Adamanthia, because we couldn't leave.
Yeah, because of the winter. Do you remember fighting the Illithids at all?
No.
Okay, so that must have been beforehand. With that, and returning to Adamanthia, the party otherwise did a few small menial tasks to help Adamanthia grow, heading in and under the mountain itself to otherwise fight some Illithids in question that had set up in the lower portion of the mines itself. The party found an ancient Abelethian prison fortress, and went in and discovered the nature of its processing. With the Aboleth not seemingly aggressive to these new intruders, the party otherwise learnt a few things, received the Cube of Chaos, and moved on. With this, they met with some gnolls, befriended them, and fought the Illithids that had gone awry and killed them, before returning back to Adamanthia, for the winter tide had begun. With this, and the frost that otherwise began to set in, does anybody have any questions before we move on to the next section?
This is more like a future thing. Do we bring Pangolife back during the other winter festivals and beat the shit out of people with our highly overpowered magic?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Very much so.
I like they just stop doing the competition because everyone gets bored of us winning all the time.
No.
And
We don't
thus
stop
we
the
know
competition. We get banned for life after receiving a lifetime award.
Well done, you are forever the champions. Now please never join this competition again.
It's more, I think it's more a case of like we can't do the regular tournament, but afterwards we get to fight the winner.
Oh, you're the reigning champion, so you get to bring your creation
Oh,
out.
the ultimate. Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Oh, you
Eventually
thought you'd
we
be the
to get
final boss? Well.
eventually we get super bribed to to not be doing what we're doing, like to lose every now and again. But we come back
So-
the next year.
Crush everybody
Some
again.
adventurer turns, like one adventuring party who was desperate to win, just turn up with all the other like dawn martial artifacts. Like, we've got everything. Come on, just let us win.
Uh,
I'll give you a drawer and that's it.
oh. So, any questions?
No,
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
Simon or Harlan, anything you can think of you want to ask?
I feel like that's a hint.
Just you haven't
Just
said
trying to
anything, so just making sure.
So Behold's dead.
Yep.
Let's be real here. Was that it did come down to being his choice, didn't it? In
Yes. Yeah.
the end. So
Uh,
there
in the-
wasn't really a way to.
In the end, when I rolled the dice, I said the DC was... I believe I said the DC was 11 because of the checks that happened. I rolled the dice and I got a 12. And I told him before I rolled it that he needs to set a personal DC based on what's happened. If they've otherwise met the needs that he needed for his character to come back. And then he is to make the decision from there. He set his personal DC. He never told me what it was. But he decided that because none of you had mentioned when it came down to it helping Behold in the fact that he was mentally broken by the attack of the Being of Enmity, he decided it was best that Behold pass on to the next life, given the Raven Queen offered protection from it and soothing of mind. So it was entirely his choice, and for that reason Bern was created with a little bit of extra gusto, being a vampire changeling. The combination I would never allow otherwise.
Fair, very fair.
The question in mind for what you otherwise mentioned previously, for the question that you should remember, is about Alderac.
I don't even remember who that is, if I'm completely honest with you.
The purple dragon who had been mentioned
yes!
to have escaped from the prison.
Yes.
None of you made the connection. Elsyan, this is something that was very vaguely hinted on with something that you had an interaction. Let's see if I can spark a memory. You spoke to a particular person, and when they said you and I are not too dissimilar, they otherwise released a little bit of an illusion, and you saw purple scales.
Oh, fuck. This rings a
fucking
bell.
Aleuir, a dragon.
Aleuir is Alderac the 100th Mind. He is... He is the ancient purple dragon from times gone by who lived in Adamantia for a long period of time and sensed your arrival in the city and proceeded to want to ally with you, knowing that you were a psionic. He had no intention...
Little shit!
He had been offered the position to side with Niagama in the final conflict, but he decided to side with the Emperor instead, for the sole purpose that in his current position he was getting a lot of coin as the High Marshal, sitting pretty in Adamantia, building up his lair.
You know what? I respect dragons. I respect the dragons that go back to simplicity with their hordes. None of this gathering ancient artifacts or knowledge. No. Gold coin. Gold is gold.
Yep, and lots of it. So yes, and he is still alive and well. And once the Emperor passes in the backstory, because he has aged significantly after the attack, he will no longer be a High Marshal. He will otherwise leave, move on, and go back to being a dragon in the mountains.
We keep in contact.
I've got the spell stone.
With him as Aleuir, yes. Him as Alderac, no. There'd be no way of knowing.
I love the thought of me using the spell stone to contact him, and just every time he's really panicked as he picks up. because
What?
he's just turned into his humanoid form.
Yeah.
What do you want, Elsyan? I just want to say hi. Fuck you.
What's with that pile of gold behind you? Nothing. Oh man.
Well, your clothes.
I just got out of the bath. Gold? Yes, I'm rich now, didn't you know?
The thing is, I have nothing but time and spell slots. I'm going to be sending a lot of people.
Yeah, that's fair. You're gonna be like the worst voicemail in existence. People are just going to purposefully get things to stop you from sending them.
Oh my god, people! There's a sudden rise among like certain people in the purchase of
Ring of
what,
March ending.
mind shielding, rings of protection from protection from detection and divination.
Mm-hmm.
So divination and detection or whatever.
Protection
just to stop
from
it.
location
Just
and detection and location.
something like that. But it's just being discovered by Sasha because they just. Please, we just need a fucking week. Just a week.
I need to sleep.
Hello. How are you doing? Just wanted to keep in touch. Kiss, kiss, love, Sasha.
No.
Like, there's entire like groups just set up called Kiss Kiss Sasha Anonymous.
But yeah. So, any further questions about that particular section of the story?
Nothing springs to mind, but if you want to tell us something, I would always be happy to hear it.
Don't think there's anything in particular that springs to mind.
Oh, I do have one question.
Go ahead.
How does an Aboleth get to running a prison?
Now, he was the runner of the prison back when Aboleths and Mind Flayers ruled the material plane. Because in the world history as it currently stands, or the material plane as you know it, effectively it began where the six prime dragons had their own planes of existence they were given, and together they collectively built the material plane. They all stayed to their respective planes and worked on their own particular things. Fire dwarfs were built and forged within the fire plane. Elves were built and otherwise nurtured in the plane of earth. Tritons were manufactured and otherwise produced in the ocean plane. And then in the air plane was produced a little bit more of the natural roiling form of giants back when they were beginning to first be built and made. The plane of light was supposed to produce humans and beings of celestial divinity in the Feywild. However, the irresponsible Matalin otherwise took the light from the Feywild, plunging into eternal twilight, and created the plane of light, which was separate from everything else. There he created celestials, which were the divine form, and refused to make humans. On the other hand, on the opposite side, as the owner of the Shadowfell, the prime dragon that otherwise ruled that particular plane otherwise created Aboleths and Mind Flayers, who then went into the material plane. And being the ones who were colonized there first, any new races that bordered and were otherwise sent from the other planes were subjugated to imprisonment. And the Shadowfell became the original hub for Mind Flayers and Aboleths. As a result, their technology was great and it was strong, and they ruled with psionic fists effectively. And the other 5 dragons turned on this one dragon and the various things that were happening, and that caused the uprising, which uprooted Aboleths and Mind Flayers and scattered them into the Astral Sea. That is my history's version of it. So the Aboleth otherwise existed from before then. So when you went in, you were the equivalent of slaves being sent on mission to say hi and see how things are going, like a random prison check.
Nice.
And Elsyan I think Elsyan, you gave him your book of lore, your first one, before you purchased another one. So he's very much aware that the war ended, and so he's no longer a very friendly Aboleth.
Oh no.
But
have I doomed any adventurer that goes back there?
No. But you otherwise got it in exchange for the Cube of Chaos, so that was fun.
What happened with that cube, by the way?
Malcom had it, he put it in the bag of holding, and then it was given to... later it was given to... I'm trying to remember his name now, because it's been So it's been a week and I've forgotten the NPC's name.
Abod?
Abod, yeah, and it was given to Abod, and he put it in the demi-plane to help protect the anchorage crest from being stolen through the use of demi-plane, along with some trash.
Yeah, we've got a spare anchorage crest, by the way, now, don't we?
Yeah, I know. But back then, when that all happened, you had the two anchorage crests, and you had the Cube of Chaos, and you had a few other things in there that he put in there for kind of safe measure. They were stolen. Queglod's parents presumably have them. Who knows who they passed it on to? So the Cube of Chaos is still at large.
Ah, fuck. Well, that's something we need to...
Nope. That can be a loose end to be brought up in another future campaign. It's fine.
Oh yeah. By the way, that's one other question I need to ask of the party. Did one of you take notes on what was in the demi-plane? Because I can't go and get that.
I can still
Anchorage
sending
crest
you,
now.
so you can just tell me.
Oh dear God.
But
Elsyan
Queglod,
wants
do
that
you
anchorage
reply?
crest. He needs to give that to someone.
But Queglod, do you reply and let them know or no?
I thought Queglod, enjoying the afterlife, gets a fucking message from Sasha. Hello, Sasha here.
Block.
I have nothing but time and spell slots, Queglod. You can't
Yeah,
stop
no,
me.
If it's Sasha asking and is probably going to try and do something not
Dumb,
welcoming with it, then I'll let you know.
Okay,
There's a list in my character sheet. It's mostly a bunch of junk.
it's fine. Won't worry too much about that.
We've got a wolf ration in there.
Yeah, it's fine.
It was rubbery when it was put in, but like this is however far in the future from that it takes to remember about this.
Several years later, it's shriveled and become tiny and is now a chew toy equivalent because of just what it is.
Oh, yikes.
Oh man, yeah. Not even a troll would eat that. Okay, moving on to the next section. Elsyan.
Yes?
With the winter over and the party otherwise meeting
Oh.
Rook and Bern, Elsyan leaves, heading to the Emerald Sanctuary, where he acquires the Acrian Orb and returns at a later date. But briefly, Sam, the player, has a little adventure. As the party otherwise delves into and from Orom's Anchor, heading to Darkreep Ruin in the attempt to get the gauntlets, the party heads down into the ravine, travelling into Orom's Anchor. You head and you deal with a small Morbin problem in the form of a massive nest that has arisen and otherwise begin to build itself beneath Orom's Anchor. With this, the party fought and killed and moved on, and eventually got to the point of meeting Sovek, the Nya skeleton. With this, and Sovek's now arrival to the party was now in a slightly more interesting situation. With Sovek now before them and a friend to the party, they now had a few choices where they wanted to go. But they still decided that Oromance Ravine was the best place to go. They headed in and down, travelling in a few number of days before emergency teleporting out. But to where? They were otherwise thrown across lands to a place they'd never been before, as they teleported in to Craganville, the Dwarven city, underground, in a place where they had otherwise never been before. But Bern had sent them there through the use of a teleportation circle, somewhere he'd never been before either. The party earned their trust and proceeded to perform a few messages and otherwise gathered themselves so they could get access to the teleportation circle in the future, heading to deal with a rather strange and puzzling geode which some scouts had been sent into to deal with. Heading down and into there, the party headed into the massive geode, finding the beginning area, where it was otherwise a small hill covered in large pikes, and on the top of which stood statuette bodies, which pulled themselves free and fell to strike the party. The party fought them, and several puzzles later, and a brief adventure heading off up into Webvar's lair unknowingly, the party left that dragon's lair into a lava chamber where they fought lava-throwing mephits and otherwise completed a puzzle before heading down into the chamber of their next villain, the Prince of Blood. Not knowing what was going on, Rook took his axe that was now vibrating and otherwise wanting to deal with whatever this was. A quest, perhaps, a intriguing notion, as he took the axe head and struck each of the large chains that wrapped around this figure in the centre, setting it free as the Prince of Blood was unleashed upon the world. With this,
You idiot.
he escaped, otherwise fleeing the area, and after having a little bit of fun with them, he left, teleporting out and disappearing elsewhere. Who knew where he had headed, but he had left nonetheless, as the party now just needed to know what they would do now. They fled the area and otherwise met with the dwarven individual they had spoken to, and learnt of that the mission had been completed, and now had access to the teleportation circle whenever they should need it. But they had to head to Relical, a place where they must head in order to meet with the King Dwarf himself. Otherwise meeting
Again,
with him...
A dick.
Yes, true. Otherwise meeting with him and otherwise relieving any information that would happen, and otherwise proceeding to give Bubble Hill back to Sasha in return for rebuilding and refounding the dwarven family and name. The party went from there and headed to Blackhold. Strangely enough, over the land and over the surface, came across several creatures that would otherwise try and strike them down before arriving at Blackhold itself, learning some secrets, unlocking Nightmaker to its second form, before leaving there, teleporting out and away. And so the party ended up back in Adamanthia again, the adventure seemingly going well before they took some time off, resting at the beginning of the year, before proceeding on their next bit of their adventure, heading off and out back into Oromance Ravine, but this time without Sovek, for he had been laid to rest in Blackhold. With Elsyan now returned, none the wiser that his grandfather had been talking smack behind his back and travelling with his old party friends, the party now went back into Oromance Ravine. Heading down in there for this next section, they travelled the 7 days before reaching Dark Reap Ruin. Heading in, they otherwise took out a large number of skeletons and undead, fought off some young necromancers, and otherwise let the others escape, before proceeding to adventure in, completing the trials necessary for a young necromancer to flourish into a full necromancer, and defeated the necromancer headmaster, who otherwise spoke to Queglod in private of her parents and his saddened notion that his teaching would come to an end. With this, the gauntlets were handed over after a fight, a tiresome one at that. As the party had a chance to teleport home, they took it, leaving the place and resting in Adamanthia. Any questions?
Oh,
Oh.
couple. To start with, Elsyan, what did you go and do?
Well, you know how there are laws for how you treat employees?
Yeah.
Elsyan doesn't follow those. What happened was, it wasn't Boston that I got the hirelings, was it, Chris?
It was Castlethorn, I believe.
It was Castlethorn, which is a
No,
place
it
where, like...
was... No, it was Coldfield, and then you diverted away from Boston.
Yes, because I went off to go find the Acrian Orb, as we know. I
Mhm.
went into... I was like, right, I've heard about the Emerald Sanctuary, I'm not going to be able to go in there on my own. Not yet, I'm not powerful enough. I need hirelings. So I went and found some hirelings. I can't remember their names.
Nor can I.
I can't remember what they did. I think a monk was in there somewhere. I think I'm at...
There was a
Anyway.
barbarian, a cleric, and a monk, I think.
So I think so. We went then with this group, and they were charging ridiculous prices for the hiring. I mean, I would not be able to afford them for the time I needed them.
Rogue, monk, and paladin. Their names were
Paladin,
Bonk Rough Tusk,
yes.
Urbot Burnturn,
Mhm.
and Sebolt Yin
I believe Bonk and Urbolt
were friends.
They were friends. They came as a partnership.
Yep. And
then
Sebolt was a Kenku monk.
And we went into the Emerald Sanctuary, and the trees speak Sylvan. That don't go to the Emerald Sanctuary. Don't go there. It's not nice. If it's green, it is there, and it is violent. Green dragons? Yes. Angry dryads? Yes. Trees trying to kill you? Probably. We didn't end up actually role-playing what exactly happened. All we do know is that Elsyan, while didn't himself actively kill his hirelings, he may not have
Saved
done all
them.
he can to keep them alive.
Yeah. He went into the Emerald Sanctuary, looted the Acrian Orb from a sacred location of a grove, and then sprinted out, leaving his hirelings as decoys.
I believe they may have died and I may have taken my money back off their bodies, but that's beside the point.
Oh,
This
you're
was
so Elsyan.
This is Elsyan at his peak, bastard.
Oh,
But he got the
God.
Acrian Orb, which is,
Which is one of the shards. Yeah.
Yeah.
one of the shards. And
Fair.
now that I think
fair.
about it, the shards were helpful. They were really helpful. They were incredibly helpful. I was about to say they weren't really all that helpful because of the whole mother thing, but no, well.
Oh, wow. Just wow.
But yeah, that's
Crikey.
pretty much what happened. Elsyan never wants to see the Emerald Sanctuary again. If he had his way, we would be burning it down.
Because the only experience I had from it was one conversation with Malcom where he said he had to go and try and calm everything down after you pissed off the entire sanctuary.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
he stole an ancient. Okay, so for reference, the Acrian Orb had been previously used by the forces of evil, in quotations. A particular noble who otherwise subjugated an entire town to do his bidding until they die.
Of course, Elsyan heard this story and fucking loved the idea of it.
Yeah. And so the Acrian Orb was basically a mind control orb that otherwise collectively controlled people for a period of time, and it worked them to exhaustion and death effectively. Which is why it was sealed away in the Emerald Sanctuary to be guarded and sealed. Elsyan, however, with his little trickery, headed in with his mystic stuff and proceeded to distract the Treants as him and his group otherwise grabbed the Acrian Orb and fled. He otherwise went ahead of the group, and the group were ultimately taken down as they were the ones trying to fight off the Treants and were killed in the event. Elsyan looted their bodies and left.
I want it known that that Elsyan is not the same Elsyan we've got now.
No.
Now Elsyan feels incredibly guilty about the entire thing.
Yeah, he died
Not
between
enough
them,
to go find.
now and then.
Yeah, I died a couple times.
Oh, yeah, I
God
guess,
Christ.
real life-changing experience, quite literally.
Yeah.
I think Elsyan would have. Think about it. He would have tried to find the families of those people if they had them and tried to repay them somehow.
Not telling them what had happened, but
Here's the money looted from your child's corpse, from the corpse of your family.
I knew your insert family relation here before they died.
Oh shit!
I thought
Look, every time Elsyan says it, because oh fuck, dad, son, husband, wife, uncle, daughter, third cousin, twice removed.
Have you had a recent death in the family? Then you might be entitled to some form of compensation. Call now on Elsyan 555.
Fair.
Sasha ends up picking up. What do you want? We're not paying any more taxes. Alright.
I swear to God, if the Empire tries to make us pay taxes after we fought Ringar,
Of course.
no. What they gonna do? What's the Empire going to do?
Yeah, if we say no, what is their option there?
Could you just imagine, like, the tax man turns up like, right, we want you to pay taxes, and we just go, no, we're not doing it. Fuck off. I'm sorry, unless the tax people are at 20th level, they ain't got a chance.
Oh man. Goes 20th
Hell.
level is now headstrong. Alright.
Uh,
Either way,
back
any
a sec.
further questions?
Um,
Oh, you had one more.
whatever happened to the school? Did it get repopulated by the children that fled, or
No.
where did the children go?
With the curse of Oromance Ravine, the school was protected for a time to allow them to raise the undead without needing to worry about them being controlled and going out of control, thanks to the curse that was in Oromance Ravine. This meant that once you took out the headmaster and the curse was and the protection was beginning to be undone, the school had to be abandoned. It had to be completely left alone, and it would no longer be functional. The children, on the other hand, fled to a backup location where they otherwise went elsewhere, which was the lair of one of the teachers, where they themselves were a necromancer in teaching. Now, I won't specify where this is, because this may become relevant in a future campaign.
Oh, good. Just
Hmm.
I still sit here and think about how we walked in, destroyed a school. A necromancy school, sure, but still a school.
But yes, the place Dark Creep Ruin can no longer be inhabited.
Right. Fair.
Okay.
Fair.
Oh, that's good. I mean, no more
Is,
reason to go to fucking Oromance Ravine.
Yeah, is Oromance Ravine still fucked? Because
I
Partially.
thought Malcolm partially fixed it.
Malcolm fixed the middle bit of it around Dark Creep Ruin, and around that particular region it has been partially fixed. The curse has receded, but the section where it otherwise is a portion of the portal below has become weaker. But the remainder of it is still affected by the curse, given that it's being cursed from below, from the hell portal. So it's kind of in a constant battle now between the ley line that has now reformed through the ravine and the portal to hell below. So, in the middle.
okay, it's got to be possible to close that portal, surely.
Potentially, but given the nature of how large it is, it's going to be one of those you'd need to spend years closing it bit by bit, presuming it doesn't re-spread back into the schisms that have been made. Any further questions?
No.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Why the fuck did Alarandra send me after the fucking sword if bloody Bern was going to get it?
Because Behold was alive at the time.
No,
Ah.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, he was.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
Dick.
when you forged your arm was before you
For
went
like
down
all
to the
of
Guild
5
Hall.
minutes.
Behold was still alive at the time for that portion of it. So when you received that, that's how it went. It wasn't until Bern drank the blood of of the previous owner of the sword, because originally the intention was you were going to get Law back, give it to Alarandra, and then she'd give it back to her son, who was then going to become a villain, because Alarandra's an asshole. However, Bern, in his particular wonderful wisdom, sent the Sons of Sanguine to go or the Sanguine Sons, sorry, to find the particular individual, and it turned out he already had the blood of that particular individual because he owned Scholar, which was the other half of Law, effectively. So he drunk that blood, so all he needed to do was find the original owner of it, and that particular individual was friends with Abbott, who he was connected to. As a result, Bern had a very convoluted way of finding the individual, found him, drank his blood, and otherwise took on his legacy without him even knowing. So it was more of he wanted to do it to see if he could, because he wanted to try and empower Scholar some more, because Scholar was really good. And then you guys found Law, and from there that's when that
Alarandra
proceeded.
continues to be a dick.
Alarandra will always be a dick. There's no question about that.
So what was that whole... Can you explain the fucking prophecy and riddles and shit?
Ah, yes. Let me load up my prophecies
God.
document. I can find it, because I haven't had to open that thing in ages. Stories, perhaps? Visions? Visions of the past, Simon? Nope, wrong one.
I know your pain of trying to locate shit.
That's why I don't. I just make it up. Who cares if I was wrong previously?
Well,
Everything. Everyone should.
I don't remember the exact notions of it all, but most of it was just linked to finding someone in the Phoenix in Adamanthia. Oh, here it is. So, prophecies. For trying to find... Let's see. Lore, here we go. Bound in darkness and wielded by shadow, this blade radiates on it the hands of those that would do it wrong. As it gleams its history old, the blade shimmered, waiting, watching, until a new wielder arises, or its return to its fold. Law was I remember now. Law was wielded by the flesh golem in the headmaster's area,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what it was referring to when it said about the whole gleaming section of it. Let's see, what do I say about this? What should I do about the Divine Forge? Return request. I do seek one true thing, the sword of a martyr, my champion, my kin, died for our leader, our ruler, our win. He rose to fight to meet death at its door. Then you shall claim and take back law. So that was the original person who owned the sword, one of the individuals who fought in the war in Oromance Ravine. The Celestials of the Iron Star, who otherwise fought against the Skin Scribe and various other dangerous creatures in the Empire's territory. Law was, well, the original owner of Law, the soldier, was the one who owned Law to otherwise proceed with his destiny. Law could be wielded in multiple forms and was owned by that flesh golem in that particular instance. Where it all began, within the wings of fire, Mount Volgrim, bursting the pyre. From there the winds shall carry you west into a lair of a humble beast, and then you saw a phoenix bursting from Mount Volgrim. Mount Volgrim was otherwise partially destroyed in its construction, becoming a collapsed volcano. The Phoenix, which was the actual Phoenix, flew to Adamanthia and became the Phoenix, which rules the Phoenix. I know, confusing. But, yes. So the Phoenix was where you needed to head for that. What question could I ask to allow you to reveal information to me that would allow me to complete this quest? Law is a sword, a master of war, the place where it fell, shrouded in gore. The wielder, the bearer, grand was they, statues, memorials lost astray. The place they fell, you know it well, your tavern is near to the words that tell. The sword was lost at the... Sword was lost at the site of the Abalethian ruins. The wielder was the warrior who fought for the weave as it formed and was attacked by the psionic illithids. Was the nature of where it was. What is the history of the sword? Made from my being, forged in this very light. It grew, it shed a power of might. Held up strong, it carried them on. The warriors of fate to a victory we won. The place it fell is a shadow, a hell. Saw a vision of the martyr. The champion had 6 wings made from metal with crystal orbs at the joints. He had a sword that split into 4. That was Law. So he had 6 wings. He had wings made of iron. That made him a Celestial of Iron, or the Iron Star rather. And he fought in that particular conflict during that particular instance. What is the history of the sword? I just did that one, sorry. Tell me about this champion. He was grand and bold, a warrior of old, chosen of us, my hope, my son. I chose him over his brother, a leader of sorts. He walked the light, the other the thoughts. One died while the other lived. Both are lost but not forgotten. The one who lives is doing good, but sealed in a prison made from stone and wood. This is in reference to the son who Abod knows where he is. It is written in the front of Abod's journal, which none of you ever read. It was amongst the book collection, but you freed Abod and allowed him to keep his journal. And the front of it is the name. It otherwise leads and has the name of the individual who was previously owned by it. The person who was sealed in stone and wood is the scholar, who is the person who Bern otherwise drank the blood of. I believe the soldier is dead at this point, but found the blood of later on.
Oh, cool.
Guide me to understand where I know this from. It was
I think that
the
just led me to
that
Dark
was that was
Ruins.
that was led to the spell book, which Bern had already looked through, which was partially
Yeah.
in link to the journal. The weave sees all I face that when I face that adversary, when I'm faced with that confusion, what should I do? I see all, I answer when you need me, but do not call me, for when you want me, I cannot answer. But when you need me, I will already be waiting. So yeah, and then you ended up giving law to Bern because Bern had basically uprooted the previous mantle and put it on himself by drinking the blood of the individual. Very convoluted, but very much player driven, that one, after it was intended to be just a fetch quest. So it changed.
That would objectively make our lives harder.
Yeah. But yeah. Any further
Okay.
questions?
I can't think of anything for that current area of the campaign.
Yeah, no, not for that bit.
Okay.
I think I'm good.
Next, I believe you travelled to the Flame. Next, I believe, was your next destination.
Here.
As you teleported to Golodon.
Golodon.
Yes, it was Golodon at that point, wasn't it?
Golodonk.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You headed to Golodon, and you otherwise met with the Flickering Flame, and I believe from there you were otherwise keeping an eye and tabs on the Prince of Blood, and that's when you went to Stone Ring Forest. Pretty sure it happened in that order? Or did you head there a second time?
No, weren't we going to? I know we got into a tea as well because we weren't too sure whether to go to the Dragon Sanctuary to try and get the heart from the tree, or go to Ravine to try and get the
Oh,
shell.
to get the
We'd
body
learnt about the
first.
soul had gone.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's correct, because you took a time skip after your venture into after your venture of letting Sobek free, didn't you? And after the adventure into Oromance Ravine, you took a time skip. Okay. After taking some time off, the party, otherwise now consisting of Bern, Rook, Queglod, Elsyan, Sasha, and Malcom, now headed to their next destination. After discussing what would happen next and what might be the next step in their adventure, they teleported to Golodon to try and meet with the Flickering Flame. There, they otherwise met the ethereal forge that would eventually allow Bern to enter the ether through this method. But, up to that point, Rook had otherwise placed his axe into the Flickering Flame. Expecting it to be partially destroyed, it wasn't. It was instead awakened as it became stronger in a new form. Before the party spent some time sitting down and understanding what was happening with the Prince of Blood. After resting there overnight and finding out that the Prince of Blood was outside, not just nearby, but in fact in the centre of Stone Ring Forest, venturing towards his destination with the Taratan Inquisitor, the party gathered themselves quickly, using Windwalk, flew there at exceptional speed and arrived at the outside to see demonic forms otherwise standing there with a collection of stone statues staring at them. The party defeated the demonic forms, the Kazme and the Bulgarers. They otherwise fought them, defeated them, and travelled in after facing a few of the statued forms, leaving the companions of Arachne and Oram outside to make sure that they weren't going to be followed by statues. You ran in and otherwise came to the Bastion of Rust, a location in the centre of the Stone Ring Forest mountain. You went in, and otherwise heading in and completing a few of the puzzles, you eventually arrived at a large underground greenery area, and heard the sound and clanging of chains, as the soul and the heart of the blind butcher were being returned by the Prince of Blood. With this, the party rushed to the centre and fought, and an attempt was made to otherwise bring back the blind butcher, with the party attempting to intervene, to find that the Prince of Blood was succeeding. The chant finished, and the soul was returned back to the blind butcher as the immortal form was downed, but the Prince of Blood escaped alongside his Taratan leader, or his Taratan Inquisitor. As the party saw and fought with the Prince of the Blind Butcher, as his body began to regenerate at exceptional levels, his undying mass standing there, the party, or Sasha more particularly, sent him away, banishing and otherwise plane shifting the Blind Butcher to another plane, a plane where he would be able to run wild for a bit before being retrieved. Bern had died, passed on, and so Sasha spent some time reviving Bern back in the town of Golodon. They had failed, but Malcom had reconnected the ley line in the Stone Ring Forest, and the life in the forest began to come back anew, green and flourishing unlike it had before, where it was previously a desolate wood and iron tree forest. The party returned to Golodon. Knowing that they'd failed, they needed to get a step ahead, deciding what they would do next. With Bern returned to life and the particular time of year that it was, they decided that they would try and focus on the things that they could do, not knowing what the Prince of Blood would do next, or even what the Inquisitor would do next. The party teleported to Numperblood, the home of Bern. Heading back there, and into Bern's home in Numperblood, they otherwise visited a few locations and before moving on to the next, travelling to Yolkendun before moving on, Yolkendun was an adventure in itself, with Elsyan's sword being stuck to its hilt, before the party otherwise continued on to Towerkeen.
Still angry.
It's fine. It's a great moment in my mind. Heading to Towerkeen, the party otherwise arrived there, seeing the otherwise Bastion location, an old mining facility, and a large set of gates that blocked off a mine from beyond. The party spoke to the person in charge and headed in, otherwise clearing out the spiders that lay within, crystal strewn and mutated in very many manners, before fighting some purple worms in the same regard, crushing them and destroying them, with a potential loss of Sasha, who'd simply banished out, but the party didn't know that at the time. With the party travelling on and further in, they met with Crystal Guardians, and eventually the Voracious Horror. The Voracious Horror was brutal and terrifying in her own right, taking down Elsyan with a disintegration ray. As his ashes fell, and the party realising what had happened, the shard that laid within the Voracious Horror's eye returned to Elsyan, meaning that there was just one left. With this, the party did what they could. Needing funding and needing to figure out what they would do next, the party took their next steps in stride, realising what they should do next and how they should tackle it. Before we get to that section of the story, do we have any questions going ahead with what happens here? What happened here, I should say.
You did remind me of one little question.
Mm-hmm.
What wound up happening to Arachne in the end?
Yeah.
Arachne, when you went and collected them back from the Stone Ring Forest, but Arachne was left at home in the Webbed Treasures, Gree and Abod's store, which sold magical items and potions. She became effectively the manager in charge of it outside of 13 Gree and Abod, and she works there and lives there still. However, in post, actually, something I did forget, Malcom was going to set her free and form an allegiance with the Dryads in the Wandering Forest to set up a giant spider nest to protect the people of Oaksmith.
Huh. Fair.
So yes, but that's what happened to Arachne.
And Aurum?
Aurum otherwise was left in the Dragon Sanctuary to look after the egg, and then after the party had outgrown Aurum ended up being left at home to guard the tavern, alongside the dire wolf and the salamander, who have probably left or run riot by now. So,
Sounds about right.
Wonderful things.
Okay.
Any questions? None?
I can't really think of much. I mean,
Rango.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, actually, the Voracious Horror.
Mm-hmm.
Was she actually a real beholder, or what was the situation with her? I can't remember.
The Venacious Horror was a very dangerous creature who could be easily killed,
Really
but
dangerous. Huh.
not.
Wouldn't
No,
have
not at all.
guessed.
A dangerous creature who previously worked for the Prince of Blood and was the backup bride should his promise with the particular traitor god or forgotten god. Should his promise to her otherwise fall through, the Venacious Horror was a backup. The Venacious Horror was a very dangerous individual and had acquired bits and pieces from multiple people and creatures, to the point that her own mindset morphed into that of a beholder, and she ended up fusing with a otherwise recently spawned beholder, forming the form of the Venacious Horror. She always wanted to look human, but could never replace her beholder parts, and likewise the rest of her body was stitched together with other people's pieces.
I have got a question. That grave that we saw, or Bern's grave, and he paid tribute and stuff.
Mhm.
So what was going on back at his home?
In Numperbud,
Yeah.
Bern is an orphan. At a young age, he was abandoned at an orphanage and grew up alongside a bunch of other kids. He was a changeling and was to be killed by the guards when he was rescued by Boudral and otherwise headed to join the Sanguine Sons at the age of 10. That was 200 years ago. Bern has since visited Numperbud I think it's every other year or every 5 years, to pay money to the orphanage that still raised him, and to visit the grave sites of his own grave and the graves of his friends, who died because they grew old and died, as well as the lady who originally raised him in the orphanage. So when you went to Boudral, he was visiting his own grave and giving coins to the orphanage that originally raised him.
Right. I see.
Yeah, because I encountered someone. It was either someone who worked for the orphanage or it was a ghost. I can't remember. But I was immediately like, okay, orphanage in Bern's hometown. There's something going on here, but we were just passing through, so we didn't really have time to do anything about it.
Yeah. But yeah, Bern's story effectively is that he was an orphan who was a changeling. People didn't realise until he started changing. Didn't realise that that wasn't the thing. Was going to be killed when he was rescued and kind of brought up as a member of the Sanguine Sun. Then proceeded to go on missions, learned various truths about himself, eventually became a vampire and proceeded to grow in strength and power. While his friends in Numperbud eventually died off, where they lived in Numperbud pretty much their entire lives. Some of them travelled on to various other locations and he lost track of them, but most of the ones that he knows about still were their graves in Numperbud, and his own was included because he went missing, just spontaneously. So that's why he visits there. Any further questions?
No.
No?
Did Elsyan ever manage to come up with a good enough anniversary present to make up for the fact that I, brought him back from the dead?
That's for you to decide.
We
The
have
answer
two
is
lovely
no.
children, and I help take care of your family.
And that is all, and I am doing at least 50% of the work at all times. Do better.
I am making sure we are remembered for all time. I gave you a talisman so we could get
But
to each
do
other
you
at a
ever
moment's
cook me
notice.
dinner? No.
Hey, we both know Elsyan doesn't know how to cook, but he does know how to order elven flatbread. Come on.
All right.
Man.
Look, take me
This
out
is
to
the grounds
dinner.
for our divorce.
Look,
We
okay,
definitely, we at some point we definitely got divorced and remarried.
Agreed.
Elsyan's absolutely doing the comic book inside a textbook thing, where he's got a cookbook, and inside of it it's just like a sending stone for an elven flatbread place.
Yeah.
Okay. It will end up being that I'm just like, okay, look, you know what? Let's just go down to the restaurant down the road. You know what? Fuck it. We'll summon
pay. I'll-
we'll summon Queglod to be babysitter. It'll be fine.
I love the thought that Queglod gets these calls and I literally cannot do this. Stop asking me to do this.
I can collect their soul if they fall and break their neck, but I can't do anything else.
Queglod. I don't care. You get here and you look after my children. Kiss, kiss.
I mean, if
smash.
a
Oh, we forgot to ask one important. Oh no. We'll come later. Wait, no. Where's that child?
Oh, where's
our boy?
Kevlar?
Where's Kevlar?
I'm not
Where's
going
our
to
boy?
say.
Where's our eldest son?
I'm not going to say, as
So old,
as he
it's
is
technically
potentially
older than
very
Sasha.
important. Speaking of, that is something that I do actually need to discuss with you all when we reach the end of the session today, which is when do you guys want to hold the battle royale?
Oh, crikey.
Oh boy.
The three-a-side battle royale. It will
Can
be.
I get my wish back?
You guys will be all level 20. Keep in mind. So.
So
Oh. Wait. Did I say? Yeah. Is it level 20 or level 9? Level 17. I can't remember. But either way, we'll get to that later. So. Any further questions, or will that be it?
I think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. After Tower Keen, remind me, what was your next steps from there after defeating
Rook
that?
couldn't shut up, and he said about the Dawn Marshals, and then we had to go to Oregon and excuse ourselves.
Oh god.
Yes. You
Rook
had to-
opened his fucking mouth.
You
Oh,
lot didn't
yes,
turn up.
that's right.
You left
Yeah.
Rook on his own.
Yeah, Rook spoke about the Dawn Marshals and completing that sort of thing, and then you had to head to Oregon.
Yeah.
I want to know, in my defense, I was dead.
Yeah.
Hey, that's Queglod's excuse, and you're still not letting her have it.
Oh, that's right. Sasha made a bargain with a Turan to be able to cast True Resurrection to bring Elsyan back, but at a cost, which is, I believe, was some permanent hit points lost.
Yep.
Yeah. So you otherwise
Okay.
went to
Yeah.
Oregon and proceeded to revive Elsyan back in Oregon itself.
Oh god.
While you were
Naked
in
front
Oregon,
of the court.
while you were in Oregon and Elsyan was revived naked in front of the court, the party otherwise kind of gathered themselves and prepared themselves for the next things that would happen and occur. If I remember correctly,
It's a giant bats.
after this, it was to the giant bat indeed to get the amber pieces, which I believe you needed to collect both of to complete the dragon head. You headed back to Tower Key, travelling along the road and making your way up through Mudland Dock. You otherwise arrived at the giant bat cave for the Lunar Devils. There, you fought the Lunar Devils and otherwise travelled in, and most of you unknowingly entered a portal into Hell, or more specifically, Stygia. There.
Big up Levistus.
Yep. There you met with the followers of Levistus after attempting to seek shelter, and there you made an agreement with them, otherwise heading to a frozen mountain top or a capped-over volcano, where your party rested in vague heat as several of the Ice Devils watched eagerly as the agreement was made to have Kevlar go with you. And so, you took him, and he went with you. As you ended up back in Adamanthia, back in a place of safety, somewhere that you could call your own. And from there, things began to unfold more dangerously. Elsyan felt a ping the moment you returned home. Something strange. As you went back there, you found Hurricane sat in your tavern, waiting and otherwise just enjoying a drink. To where you proceeded to feel a ping from the centre of town. The syringe guy, as he was known, or Kizrin's mentor by the name of Jacker, was in town and doing something, With this, Elsyan immediately informed Hurricane and the rest of the party, and you otherwise went towards the central tower. Arriving there, and otherwise entering the room where, I believe it was, Reagan, no? Darn it, so many people named with R's that are all leaders.
Yeah, no, it was Regan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Regan Rustbeard. Where you otherwise found Regan's body being crouched over by Jacker. He stabbed, who otherwise pulled the syringe out of Regan's body, moved and otherwise jumped out the window. With a falling/crash scene for the rest of the party, some people jumping out in an attempt to do so, and otherwise watching as Jacker fell to the ground, eventually teleporting out with Kizrin. A Geist attacked Hurricane and Sasha, downing Hurricane, and Sasha took Hurricane and herself, and I believe also Regan's body at that point, and you used Word of Recall to head back to your tavern. From there, you rested and healed him as best you could, and the party didn't stop Jacker from escaping, and some time went by. With this otherwise occurring, do any of you remember what happened next in your story? I believe you went to Webval's lair at this point, didn't you?
I think we started prepping for that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We took a bit of a stop because I went and did my pilgrimage.
Oh, that's right.
Because I met Webval just before.
Just before your pilgrimage, yeah. I'm just trying to remember when you fought Kizrin and Hurricane, and
That was after.
that was after Webval?
Yeah.
But before Prince of Blood? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, spending some time in your time skip preparing for the next section of your adventure with Adamantia's security increasing, the party went and did their own things, Webval having Rook having a very close call with Webval, not the other way around. As Rook was going about his business, going to various places, and accidentally meeting an ancient white dragon on his trip. The party then knew what came next, and needed to head to Webval's lair to collect the second piece of amber. Teleporting in to Webval's lair, they arrived to the otherwise lightly windswept ice dome on top of a mountain in the old arena, where Webval slept in the centre with mist and fog coiling around him. The fight took place, and several individuals were injured and downed. The fighting went brutally, and some were almost killed. Eventually, the fight came to a close where you defeated the monstrous dragon hunter of Webval, and proceeded to grab the amber, some gold and some other bits and pieces, and seeing an eye in the orb below the stone, before teleporting out and back to Adamantia. Any questions? You've already asked about Kevlar.
Why did they kill Hurricane if he was on their side, and therefore make me waste a fucking diamond?
So,
They hate you.
for reference, sirens can't let each other know that they're sirens. It wasn't until
Well, that just feels like a bad policy.
Yes, this is true. However, it meant that where Hurricane died and was brought back by you guys, it meant that he was covered up as not being someone who was working for them, shall we say. He was known to them still, because only the original Ambergrin knew that Hurricane worked for them. Kizrin and all that were busy doing other things at the time. Back during the attack in Adamantia, where the 4 leaders were otherwise sealed off and Regan had his soul snatched, and Rahal lost her eye, and Aleuir fought with almost his entirety, was almost forced into dragon form. And Hurricane was sitting pretty with the other individual because he wasn't being attacked, because they knew he was a siren. He just had to be roughed up a bit to make it look like it was a fight. As a result, that is why at the end of it, Hurricane was perfectly fine, whereas the others were all injured. When they did the attack the second time, they presumed Hurricane was working with you guys, so they killed him off for safekeeping. This resulted in Hurricane's death, you reviving him, and then him otherwise proceeding to be very well obscured from your vision, or villain vision, shall we say, for a time being.
Yeah.
We were bamboozled.
Ungrateful cuck nugget.
He was grateful by all
Whoa,
means,
whoa.
just didn't deserve it.
I
No need to
stand by
bring
what I
nuggets
said.
in this.
You're right. I should never insult a nugget
Ain't
like that.
Yeah.
He just makes me so angry.
Fair.
Completely understandable. Have a nice day.
Any further questions?
Not really a question per se. I just want to note that Jacka barely escaped.
Barely, yeah.
He was so good.
I can't remember how many hit points he had, but I know it was it was double digits and it was below 50.
Well, he was not doing great in terms of hit points, but if I'd gotten my turn before him, I could have prevented him from getting out the room. And then he would have just been fucked.
Oh, what with Gate? You mean?
Arcane Gate, yeah.
Yeah.
I was so happy when I figured that out, but he immediately ran away.
Yep.
Oh well.
I smell something strange on the wind. They figured it out. Run.
Yep.
I must flee.
Yeah, he did flee indeed. That is when we learned that you fall up to 120 feet per round, not 60. 60 is for Featherfall and Earthbind. Either way.
Neat.
Yeah, neat. And you fall safely to the ground with both of those, falling up to 200 feet per round at terminal velocity. Either way, yeah, you killed Val during this section. And then I believe what came next was it the Betrayal or was it the Prince of Blood? I forget.
When did the meteor come into effect? That was after, wasn't it?
That was
Yeah.
after Prince of Blood, yeah.
I can't remember what way around it was.
Because I remember Elsyan
I've
was doing the
got-
shard sense every day.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it was after the Prince of Blood. For some reason, I can't be held accountable to that, but I have a feeling it was after.
No, that's fine. I can't remember the exact timeline as it was, because those two bits are a little bit of a wrong way around. But we'll say that it was this particular way around. Fighting Val and grabbing the ambers, things were looking up. And so the party went to try and take care of the next thread that they had to deal with, heading to Molsk Vola, the Cloven Swamp. There they otherwise went to try and find the Plague Lord and snuff him out before the Prince of Blood could acquire another ally. With things as they were proceeding, his children were being born, various outposts were rising up elsewhere, and attacks were proceeding to hail the bottom of the dwarven cities. With the Blind Butcher completing his work and the Prince of Blood returning as the King of Blood, the party went and met with the Plague Bringer, a otherwise very dangerous individual, or the Plague Lord, sorry. Arriving and meeting with this particular individual with the intent of killing him, they otherwise arrived to find a very changed individual. The large cockroach individual with 4 arms and several layers of wings was wearing the mantle of Selensir, the draconic god, the sister of a Turan. With this strange new revelation that he had been turned by a previous priest of Selensir and released nearly 50 to 100 years ago, the party made an ally with the Plague Lord, as he intended to stop his brother. With this, in the event that transpired, the Skin Scribe met with them and otherwise mentioned a plan, but said that it was his own and not yours, hiding the truth as he was intending to be released from his own pact. With this, the party then proceeded on their next venture to this, as the Plague Lord took some time to disappear for a bit, and the party returned home to figure out what would come next. This is when things unfolded. The party heard of the next thing that would otherwise come their way, as the shard was detected far to the east instead of to the south. Elsyan woke up and was strangely affected by it, as he knew that something was wrong. That was when Elsyan, along with the rest of the party, heard of what happened in Oregon, an attack against Professor Flint, as he was otherwise in danger and was killed in the attack. The party otherwise went to Oregon to find out what was going on, to discover what had happened, and upon a successful scry heard the voice of Hurricane, otherwise sitting and talking with Kizrin and Jacka, who were to leave the next morning. With this, the party sprung into action. Using their wand of enemy detection to great effect, the party otherwise narrowed it down to 2 houses, finding where they were going, and went inside. They went downstairs to the otherwise secret area that was an alchemy lab that was set up by the owner of the house. The party went down and fought with Kizrin, Jacka, and Hurricane, where Hurricane played the part of the prisoner, where Jacka was otherwise killed alongside Kizrin, the Lich. With this, the party had overthrown these individuals, defeating them and bringing Hurricane to Oregon, where there he would be defeated. His entire charade was torn up, a siren was made of him, and he was imprisoned within a magical seal, but not before a magic was used that somehow escaped the notice of the guards and the many others. Taking the equivalent of a suicide pill, Hurricane took his own life for a last laugh against the party as he died. With that, and his passing to wherever he may have gone, the party was infuriated by this. Went on a little bit of a rampage in a local tavern, before they proceeded to plan and figure out what their next steps would be, for otherwise facing the now King of Blood, who had returned shortly after. Any questions people would like to ask about that last section?
How do we find his soul and kick it in whatever passes for its genitals?
That would require Queglod's doing. And,
Ah.
this particular
You know
instance, Queglod is unable to find it.
Now, Chris, I have got to ask you a follow-up question.
How many divine interventions do you want me to use, Chris?
I've got to ask Chris one very important question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you sleep at night, you monster?
Well, I roll a...
Actually, from what I know from you, you don't sleep at night at all. You
No,
sleep
I
during the
sleep
day.
during the day. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
It's pretty accurate, actually. Yes. But in terms of trying to find his soul, there is not going to be a way to find it.
How about time travel? Would time travel work?
It would, but it's not something that you would be able to do.
God damn it. A Turan!
No, she can't. Time travel is something that no god plays with because it's a very dangerous game to play.
You're a dragon
Unmurder us,
god,
you
can
arrogant bastard!
You're a dragon god.
Marv.
Can you get in contact with Kisibar and the other one?
I mean, no, because they were sealed off. Like, Queglod was the one who sealed off Kisibar's soul by capturing it and sending it away. That's what upgraded Nightmaker.
God damn it.
But in the end, Hurricane's soul was released. And otherwise went elsewhere, which means it's either floating in the Astral Sea, it's passed through the realms of the Raven Queen, or it's moved on to whatever other layers use souls.
I'm having it be written into the Dawn Seeker, like Dawn Marshal's like handbook thing that Elsyan is making. Just if you ever meet someone called Hurricane, he's a tabaxi. He's really nice.
Just kick him in the dick.
Seems really great. Just kick him in the dick. Destroy whatever remains of him. End him.
I like the thought that Elsyan hadn't considered this, but the moment Sasha brings it up, 3 chapters are built around kicking him in the dick.
Just
3
describe.
chapters.
It's Tolkien levels of describing a rock. It's that level of going through and just describing how to beat
when
him
you
up.
kick him, you've got to make sure your shin is the part that makes contact. Now remember, you've got to lift and separate. Lift and separate.
Oh, man.
Either side of the shin. Good. You know.
Oh, man.
If you're a wizard, I don't care. If you're a monk, perfect.
Take it in turns if you have to.
Kick until dead.
Oh man.
Also, check back to it for like cyanide or whatever the fuck it was.
Pull all teeth out.
Oh man. No, it wasn't that, but yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Any further questions?
No. I know at some point we went to the Barrenlands, didn't we? That's when Malcom got beat up.
Yeah, I believe that happens after the Prince of Blood.
No, it was before, because we were asking about the Prince of Blood. Because we were saying how we needed to go and stop him, but we had a plan.
So that would be after this one. Yeah.
Mm.
It's after this section.
Oh, I don't know. No more questions?
No more questions?
Not from me.
Okay.
Out of curiosity, what were the words? You said there was a sequence of words that he'd said.
Yes. Let me see if I can find those. That is potentially very well hidden somewhere.
Because you disguised that so well. I thought it was just a sentence, so...
That's something I have definitely not prepared for, so I don't know.
No, that's fair.
I don't... That wouldn't be in there. Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell you where that would be.
That's fair. I didn't think about it until you just mentioned it, so
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't know where it would be. Yeah, genuinely no idea. I can check the bottom of my notes page, but I think that ends at... Yeah, that ends at Rust Town. Because then I started putting things in proper notes and places, so I couldn't tell you where. So, somewhere. Don't know where, though. But yeah, you are right, there is a small sequence of words that were used to kill off Hurricane.
And they'll go with Chris to his grave.
I might find them eventually.
Yeah, we established that it's functionally impossible to detect all of those.
Yes, correct.
Feels like there's so
I
many.
would have thought End or someone would have like a list of people's last words or something.
I mean, no, he's there to collect the soul and take it to the Raven Queen. Their last words don't matter.
It just feels like something someone should make a record of, you know?
I mean, it's not how it was. Harvest Festival, past story.
Sasha, if you can become a god, that's your domain. Last words.
I mean, like, it is fully possible that I become some sort of strange, bastardized scion of Turan just to stay alive longer to fuck with everyone.
No, unfortunately, living gods as they currently are can't forge scions.
That's a shame.
So Sasha will outlive you all apart. No, sorry, Elsyan will outlive you all apart from Bern.
Who will outlive you?
Can I outlive Elsyan out of spite?
No.
You sure? Dwarf seem to be. Okay, Chris. Let's say this another way. Can Sasha outlive Elsyan based on a grudge?
The grudge will live on.
The grudge always does.
I know there's physically no way I'm going to outlive any of you. Well, actually, I outlived Queglod, but it's a bit of a...
You're an adorable little mayfly.
Fine.
I have found something written in quotations, which is, will you stop the progression?
It does ring a bell.
So that might have been what it was. It's in the document which contained the document called A Lethal Grudge, which was the listing of the Abergrin members and all that stuff.
Fair.
So I'm guessing that's it then.
Oh.
Will you stop the progression? Yeah. Okay. Any further questions?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay. With that, the party moves on, heading back to Malcolm's homeland to otherwise speak with the Queen of the Barrenlands. On good notice, now that they have been to Oregon and meeting with the emissary of the Barrenlands within the court itself. The party met with him and otherwise travelled to the Barrenlands to seal out their future. Heading there, Malcolm got beat up to prove a point, and otherwise spent some time training with his aunt before returning back to the party, where they would prepare for war as an orc marauding clan was heading their way.
Those poor fucking orcs.
Yeah, those poor orcs who you broke so many war laws by using your spells and blowing them up to smithereens. Spells were nerfed after that session, and mistakes were made on my part as the combat ensued and you annihilated them without the forces even getting involved. With that, the party returned home war heroes instead of war criminals, and they had won the day.
That's because the Geneva Convention doesn't exist in this world yet.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it exists because of Do you think we should pen some war crimes and stuff you're not allowed to do? Do you think we should be the ones to do that? Just okay, here's what we did. Don't copy us.
Can't use certain spells in war. Yeah, makes sense. So yes, returning home to Adamanthia, the party rested and waited for the moment to arise. As the party made their preparations, the call was made, and thus they progressed with the story. The infiltration of the city went smoothly. Heading in, using a seeming spell, the party went in and otherwise hid themselves amongst the Taratan folk, disguising themselves as best they could, with Rook being terrified of everything, every second, of every moment. The party hid themselves inside of a magnificent mansion, inside of Queglod's demi-plane. While Queglod, using an oil of etherealness, poured it over her body, disappeared, and flew to their destination. Landing inside of the top of the ziggurat where the wedding was taking place, the demi-plane was used, and a fight ensued thereafter with Nagriel joining the party. They killed a pit fiend general. They defeated, in theory, the skin scribe, and otherwise took out the blind butcher before successfully killing the King of Blood before he could become the Emperor of Blood. The Queen of the Taratan was disposed of also, killed and her heart taken out to be used by Bern for Heartstop at a later date should he wish to use it. With the rest of the party now gathered in this particular instance, the King of Blood dead and the axe shattered. The party stood there, not knowing what would come next, as the skin scribe otherwise scattered the blind butcher elsewhere and rained meteors down on the plain below as the party teleported out to an entirely new location. From there, for one reason or another, I can't exactly remember why, the party ended up in Frostendra. From there, they otherwise were beaten up and bloodied and met with the leader of Frostendra before returning back to Adamanthia, where they rested knowing that their job was done.
That was a teleport gone wrong.
Yeah, I think it was something to do with that, yeah. And the party now returned to Adamanthia. From there, the party went back to the Barrenlands, after meeting with Rook's family the first time. They returned there, the curse now broken, and Rook now wielding a new weapon. With this, the party had nothing to do for a short while. Things weren't amazing, but the next steps of their adventure would lead them to Queglod's parents. So before we start that, any questions people have?
Why spiders?
Why? Because he forged
Why?
a pact with the Forsaken God of Spiders.
Worst. Absolute
Why
worst.
is that a thing, Chris?
Yeah.
Because she's also the Forsaken God of Blood.
No, Chris, now that's an explanation. An explanation provides answers, doesn't provide more questions.
Yeah, it does. Answers always provide more questions. You know how that works. It's never an equal trade.
Oh, Chris, what's 1 plus 1?
2.
Yeah, the question isn't as what is a number. No.
The
so
question
answer is
becomes,
what-
why is 1 plus 1 1 plus 1?
So what is 1 plus 1?
There's
Why should you plus 1 to 1?
Exactly.
What?
2.
Why?
No, there was one answer to it. What was 1 plus 1? And it's 2.
Math.
I have a feeling,
actually.
Harlan, please don't. I've noticed Simon's suspiciously silent about this.
So, any questions to do with the campaign?
Oh, like what happened to the Princess Blood's kids? Did they all get killed, or did any of them escape?
Oh, they were all destroyed in the meteor swarm that was cast.
Oh, very good. And I mean, it was requested that we don't kill all the Terratan because they were gonna, or the Sanguine.
Yeah, there was collateral damage. Most of them died.
Yeah, right, fair. Nice.
I mean,
He committed a lot of war crimes.
It's
We
the
didn't do that one.
skin scrub did
in
it.
this case, it was the skin scribe doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the fact that we
Legally,
committed a lot of
we're
war crimes.
fine
Mm-hmm.
in this particular occasion.
Hmm.
For legal reasons,
Yep. For legal reasons.
we're good.
And then the skin scribe scurried off to wherever he went.
Yep. And that is all you'll hear for the skin scrape, because I may use him again in the future.
Oh, you're not going to tell us where the skin scribe went?
No.
I will say this
Oh.
again. Maverick will be on my call list.
Maverick? Like
Not
Maverick
Maverick.
Dawn?
Well, yes, Maverick, but also what's his name? Begins with an M. Bug Dude.
Oh. Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, he doesn't
Markov.
Markov. There
yep.
it is.
he doesn't mind the sendings, and we'll send them back to you on a regular occasion.
Yay! I have a pen pal.
No, not a pen pal. No pens were involved in this situation.
A sending
Yay! My send pal.
Spell.
My send friend.
Send friends.
Oh,
terrible.
no.
It's terrible. I mean,
Well-
full well Chris secretly loves it.
It's going to be in future campaigns. It's like, oh, I have a send friend. Like, what? You have a what? A send friend. Oh, man.
I hate this already.
Yep. All right. Any further questions?
Not really.
No?
Did we figure out what? Because the guy that sold the exploding ducks, this is not where this section specifically.
Yeah,
What's
but
the
yeah.
It was the guy that sold the exploding ducks. I've
Suhaba.
forgotten his name. Suhaba. Where is Suhaba? We may know this, but
I'm
forgetful.
not going to say.
You're a sick bastard.
He left. I'll say this. He left saying that he had left because remember when Oregon called in all their craftsmen to make magic items for the war effort? He lied in saying that he went and did that.
What?
Suhaba didn't. He's elsewhere and otherwise unaccounted for.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Suhaba was Ringar the entire time. sorry.
A good thought, but no. No. He went into my maybe pile after he went missing the first time. And I was like, I know where he's gone. I know what he's doing. And I went, this is fun. Am I going to get to do it? Nah, I'll do another campaign. It's fine. You'll just show up in another campaign. You'll be like, oh, it's this guy. Wait, where have you been?
Just so many different kinds of exploding rubber duck. Incendiary ducks, smoke ducks, lightning ducks.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my days.
I have made this kind to bind and stop things moving. I call them duct tape.
Throw a duck at something and it just has the effect of sovereign glue for an hour, sticking two things together. Oh, that's a terrible idea,
Okay,
but I love it.
consider an alternative. You made a gloose.
Ooh, that's dreadful.
It's dreadful.
Oh.
Oh.
You know what's going to happen next time you're in somewhere somewhere fun.
That moment when you've got a bag of them, it's like duck, duck, goose. Which one?
Oh man. So, any questions further, or move on to the next section?
Yeah, I can't think of any. I'm pretty sure there probably is,
Just while we're between sections, so I won't be cutting you off on anything. In the field Z over 2Z, 1 + 1 = 0.
Okay, fuck
There's your
yeah.
fact of the day.
Simon, why would you do this?
So what you're saying is we have not, in fact, conclusively proven that under all circumstances, 1 + 1 does in fact equal 1.
1 + 1 very rarely equals 1.
Sorry, 1 +
There
1.
are some contexts.
Sorry,
I want you to know this is fueling a rage that has been fueled all day.
Oh, this is great.
I might go out tonight and kill someone.
Simon,
Because of
if
you
you ever
people.
end up playing a wizard in the future who just does maths wrong, I'll allow it. It's fun. It's like, he's super intelligent. What does he say? 1 + 1 = 1. That doesn't
Here's
work.
the thing.
Fireball.
This math isn't wrong. That's the annoying thing.
Yeah, but commoners would, because you know what they're like. Like, you've seen what's going on in the world. Commoners everywhere thinking about everything. Anyway, enough politics. We've had Hurricane's death already. We don't need to get into more politics in the world. But with that, and now the King of Blood dead, and Queglod's parents being on the horizon, the party target Queglod's parents. Finding them and otherwise attacking their home, they fail to capture this particular enemy in their home, so instead opt to plan B, Gate. And thus, Queglod's mother, Jalila Prill, was killed, and they learnt the secrets of them and finished them off, before the final plot began to unfold. With this, everything accelerated. Ringar was brought back to otherwise deal with a few things, Oregon was attacked, and everything that happened last session came to a close. Any questions on the final section of the story therein?
There any remains
Why
of
so
Ringar
many
left?
dragons?
Yeah,
Why? Because you were supposed to discover them one after another, because you discovered quite a few of them at different locations, but you just didn't fight them. You met Nutar the first time when heading to the Sun-Kissed Mountains. Granted, you weren't supposed to fight him then, but he was up there.
What you're telling me
You met
is that we were supposed to be killing these guys before they turned up at the city.
Yeah, along with the Cult of Charred Bone. They had made their first appearance at level 2.
We're a bad man.
So when do we meet each of the dragons then?
So, you never
Yeah.
directly met Polinyasi. You heard of Tunzetsu from Feng. You otherwise never met Lilithyorn. And Sudz heard of Cabbage, because Cabbage used to be the dragon that watched over the Enchanted Glade before he was killed by Grandcrest, the stone dragon of Dragon Sanctuary. Koboleth was otherwise killed off and revived by Lilithyorn, who lives within her lair in the Wave Sun Grave, which is a large maelstrom of water in the middle of the oceans, just off the Scordial coast.
Right.
Somewhere which you never would have gone to, but it was those were ones you weren't going to mention. Ultrine you met in Frostendra. Elsyan, that very pressuring psionic pressure that you felt after teleporting out of the King of Blood fight, was Ultrine. She detected your presence there, and you guys promptly left. Who else? Webval you obviously met face to face.
Mm-hmm.
Neargamma you met and saw as he flew past Skycalm Keep while you were on your journey, when you heard of kobolds in the mountains. That was the dragons working there. And Origatho, you knew where he was. It's just never going to go there. in Arcathune. When it came to the rest of them, however, the scarecrows outside of Adamanthia that were abducting people were the Cult of Chardbone taking people to otherwise add them to the undead army and use the human flesh as food. They did the same when they broke into homes in Orom's Anchor. They did the same when they otherwise killed a bunch of the Morband down in the Morband lair in Orom's Anchor and stole a bunch of the females to otherwise have a theoretically infinite food source in the form of Morband.
Oh, cattle.
Yeah, effectively. Very fast breeding cattle.
More like rattle, am I right?
Hey. But yes, so they had their rattle from there. And then I believe that was all the attacking they did, because they then realised after you dealt with a bunch of things and your name started becoming kind of more pronounced, they didn't want to get involved. And then once you killed Weval, they went underground entirely. Because their original plan was to try and overthrow Adamanthia through the use of like subterfuge and stuff. Not fighting. Because with only Hurricane there, they were going to use Hurricane as basically a pin where he was going to hand over the rule of it to the half-dragons, because they were going to attack the city. They were going to get in and then kill a bunch of people, and then Hurricane was going to say, to save the people, we'll give you the city. But the entire thing was uprooted after you killed Weval and then killed him later, so... yeah, that entire plan went out the window for them, so they had to rethink their approach, and so they just consolidated their efforts, attempted to steal a bunch of eggs from the Dragon Sanctuary, and then Ringo showed up.
Oh, what was the deal with Hurricane's replacements, by the way?
What with the 4 replacements?
Yeah, the masked guys.
The masked guys were one individual with 2 simulacrums. However, these simulacrums were directly bonded to him through one of his own spells, because that's when I started dabbling in spellcrafting early on. And the spell that he had made allowed him to bond his simulacrums to him, so that they acted as extra hit point pools for him.
No.
So they were bound to him. However, they would also pull off of his spell point pool, which means that they can't cast. They don't have their own spell spot slots to use. They bounce off of him, so he can cast 3 spells per turn, and they pull directly off of his spell slot list, so he can do a lot of spells very quickly. However, any AoE spell hits him 3 times, so that can get very dangerous, and each one has its own hit point pool, which means he can be killed all at once by one very powerful spell. Additionally, whichever the target of something like a power word kill would affect him, it has to target... it can target any 3 of them, but if one of them's affected by Death Ward, only that one will be protected against the power word kill.
Okay.
So it had a lot of vulnerabilities, but it allowed him to do a bunch of strong things. He was a marshal because he could summon an army, because he had a bunch of spells he could like commune channel with his other simulacrums to make conjure elementals. And that was the extent of his martial side of things.
So, was he the only person in that city who wasn't in on a big conspiracy?
Who, that marshal?
Yeah.
No, the other 2 weren't in on it either. Because I think it was the Chancellor or the Governor that showed up, the new ones. The one who was very strict. He was directly working for the Empire, and he wasn't in on it at all. He wasn't a siren. He was just doing his job and making sure that everything was okay. That's why he was an arsehat to you guys for a while, because he was used to it, trying to do everything. And then the other guy
Imagine
was
not being secretly evil.
Yeah.
Nerd.
And the other guy, who was a Templar, worked on subterfuge and was a member of the Phoenix. So he was working kind of coinciding with them, and kind of picking up pieces and making sure they had more of a pronounced guard within Adamanthia. So they had effectively a secret service going on there. But they were all kind of brought in kind of as a group. None of them ended up being sirens. There was the luck of the draw, and there was the chance there could have been another one, but there wasn't in that group. Because I ended up rolling for the different ones that could have been sent. So, but there was a chance. Any other questions? Either in general at this point, given that we're at the end, or just for the final
How
section.
did Bern meet Lucroxia?
So you know when you went into the Morban cave, and there was the orb that Feng found in the back of the Morban temple at the bottom.
Yep.
That orb was an orb to Lucroxia. And if you otherwise reached, I think it was 26 with your charisma mod, or you maxed it out at 30, I couldn't remember which, then the orb would shatter, providing a permanent +2 to the user. And that caused him to go up to 22 charisma. And then Lucroxia thanked him and said, "Come and meet me in the Feywild when you're ready."
Uh-huh.
Yeah, effectively. Yeah. He took it that way, but that's how it was intended, yes.
Okay. Fair. I think I'm pretty much out of questions.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Simon, Sam, anything? Or
don't think so. I mean, apart from what's happening in the future with the Psionics in the Elven Kingdom, like,
that would
are they properly being used?
they will properly be used and they will develop.
And they're being treated like people, not
yes,
just tools.
They are being treated like people. However, there are ones who will specialize in using their psionics for the purpose of warfare and other things.
Yes.
So this does mean. No, I can't say it. We'll skip over that.
Do it.
No,
Do it.
I will
There it
not.
is.
I will not drop myself down to that level until 5.5 is released. Soul Knife does not exist.
Chris.
No.
Are you telling me that Soul Knife has very technically exists in this world?
Maybe in campaign 3.
What about Cyanide?
Yeah, that one does.
The more benign evil.
Yeah, that one's fine. Cyanite exists. Cyanite's perfectly fine. Cyanite is.
Fine. That's Cyanite.
There are plenty of Cyanites running around, and then there's that one Soul Knife who got his head chopped off by
You know
a
what?
giant
If they
praying
start going
mantis.
if they get into Soul Knives, that's when the blood like nah.
No sneaky stuff. Stab. Oh, that works perfectly. The Brumblies hate Soul Knives as well. Excellent. Thank you, Sam. Soul Knives do not exist.
No, Chris. Here's the thing. You now have a whole faction of Soul Knives that only the good ones survive. So ultimately, what the Bloodbars don't realise what they're doing is exactly what the
Screaming.
Shadow Stem want them to do. Bloodbars are trying to kill them all, and the Shadow Stems are like, if you can avoid the Bloodbars, you're useful to us.
It's involuntary screening.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I don't like Soul Knife until 5.5 comes out. So until then,
vaccine-resistant strain
of Soul Knives.
psychic.
No. And for those who don't know why I don't like Soul Knife, it's too powerful because of its reusable resources. I can go on for a rant if you want, but I spent 20 minutes typing a reply to someone I didn't know very well to rant about Soul Knife.
Elsyan trains one of our
Yeah.
children into a soul knife.
If he does, your children will die. Not
Well,
just
all
that
our
one,
children die,
all of
Chris.
them.
All our children will die at some point, Chris.
Yeah, I'm talking about instantly.
Because Chris, one of either Harlan or I are going to play those characters at some point, and you know what's going to happen? They need a tragic backstory.
One of them spontaneously combusted.
You know what? If I ever play one of our kids, I'm just gonna have it be obnoxiously happy. Like, yeah.
Oh no, Harlan! If you do that,
I will
we've
say-
both got to. You play the one that's obnoxiously cheerful. I will play the emo kid.
I will say,
Okay.
as a general note, I do not allow people to play their descendants or related to their
Why?
characters, just because of the way it is. However, if anybody else wants to tag team and play Elsyan and Sasha's kids, I'm not
Okay.
against that.
Okay,
But-
can't say you can do that if I still get to be Elsyan.
No, because bringing Elsyan back is like bringing a 20th level character back at the beginning of a campaign.
It can be old, crippled Elsyan, as opposed to young, crippled Elsyan.
No, okay. Just imagine, like, old crippled Elsyan, and for some reason still alive, but extremely crippled. Sasha.
I won't be
just
leveling
like,
you up if that does happen.
Still
that's fine.
not bloodied.
That's fine.
No. Yeah, but I don't tend to pull back on
Yes.
characters that have been previously established. They may show up as NPCs, or they may be noteworthy names that do appear in history, stuff like that. But outside of that, they won't typically show up all that much. But I think with that, the only other thing that I will mention is that well done for defeating Ringar in the way that you did, and well done for stealing the Anchorage crest, by the way.
That's a point. What does the Scion of Maldoros want with it?
The Anchorage crest?
Yeah, because he wanted me to get it, didn't he?
Around, really.
Yeah, because if you didn't, then Ringar would have potentially won.
Oh, he was. I expected him to have some sort of great evil plan for it.
No. No, the extent that he wanted it is he went, the moment the Anchorage crest goes down, you guys lose. General note, if the 4th Anchorage crest goes down and it creates the square of energy where it draws from the natural energy, Ringar would have regained 200 hit points per round until he's at full hit points. And it would keep doing that so long as he remains within the square. So you would have then had to have taken out each of the 4 Anchorage crests before you could stop him.
Amazing. That would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Good thing we knew our priorities.
Yes.
Or we just didn't run away.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that is true.
We just
Well.
kept fighting.
Yeah.
And being a bunch
Yeah,
of
and I didn't get to
assholes.
use the last beings, unfortunately. But oh well.
Remember, guys, belligerence. That's how we win.
Being of enmity, being
Look,
of
it's
theatre,
very-
being of silence, and being of war. Neither of which you got to see those last 2.
to be very, very simple, when it comes to adventurers, what we do is our sheer will to not die and to beat whatever the fuck we come in front of is bends reality to our will.
Yeah.
For
Remember,
some odd reason, it fucking works.
Yep. This is true.
all we need to remember as adventurers is these 3 simple words. Just
don't
Don't
die.
die.
Yep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Queglod managed to fuck that one up. Jeez.
She died of old age, and then she didn't die. Will add,
Yeah.
she didn't die of old age. She resisted. So I think she's gonna trump you, Sasha.
No, Sasha refuses to die until I've out-aged the equivalent of Queglod. No, the end shall not take me until I have beaten Queglod. Perhaps not even then.
Either way,
I like the thought you're saying this is the end. It's just like, yes, Sasha, very good, yeah.
The thing is, I desperately do want there to just be like a thing of like, oh no, I'm about to die. Divine intervention.
you can't do that. Why not?
Yeah, I'm guaranteed it once. I'm guaranteed it, aren't I?
Turan just turns around and goes, "No, I've had my fun."
I love the thought of a turn just like, okay, I was willing
No.
to help you, but I'm not fucking with the Raven Queen.
Look,
Yeah,
come on, look,
that
I
is
just need
that
to
is
win
one
this.
thing. That is one thing. Screwing with another deity's domain is something that things like Divine Intervention can't do.
Okay. A Turan is in the domain of life.
She's in the domain of rebirth, so she can bring someone
Okay,
back from
okay.
the dead, but she can't stop
Okay.
them from dying.
You established it was life, rebirth, and the forge.
Life, rebirth, and lava are the 3 things. Forge
Yeah.
comes into lava because it was a
Yeah.
stretch and because of the way you wanted to run it at the beginning of the campaign. Life came in because of rebirth.
Well, that life is there, and rebirth, rejuvenation could come under that. Basically, I just need to exist slightly longer than the equivalent of Queglod. So, like, just
I mean, here's
like
the thing.
a year. Or
I mean,
12.
in 20 years, you'd be older than Queglod was, because remember, she's a halfling. So she only lived
I know, but I mean like the
120
equivalent.
years.
Like she basically lived an extra
Yeah.
year.
love
I
these
I just need to
adorable
beat
short
the
little
equivalent once I'm at like 350 dwarven death age.
Hmm.
At that point, then sure, I'll give up. But only after I've won.
Either way, unless anybody has any further questions they want to slip in before the end. No?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Nope. I think that's about it.
For those of you watching, this has been Crabby D&D. Campaign 1, this has been a pleasure to run. And this is the last time you will ever see this board. So take in the glorious mustache, the monstrous amount of dice that will be gone by Campaign 2. You can say bye-bye to Sam's luxurious voice, as unfortunately he will be stepping out of Campaign 2. Unless he turns up as a cameo character or decides to...
I may need your help at some point, Sam. I'll explain it. I'll explain when it becomes relevant.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And we may end up seeing him in Campaign 3, depending on how things go. In which case, I'll be back to 7 players.
Depending on life, the universe, and everything.
Yep, we'll have to see. But Campaign 42, perfect. We'll be dead before then.
No, Chris. We might finally see 6th edition, and we can all sit there playing it while being pissed off that everything's changed.
Oh, they've all got to go to the same old people, so. Chris, you prepared your next campaign yet? I'm working on it.
Chris, I've got this character. It's a bit. It might be a bit OP. It's got some homebrew stuff. Can you okay it?
I'd like to play a Warforged, except I'm actually just a gnome inside a mech suit.
So you're just a gnome artificer then? No,
basically,
I'm a Warforged, but I want to take fighter levels. No, stop. Alright, well, for the end of that is the end of this, and you will see a completely new screen when it comes around to Campaign 2, as the names and the portraits on everybody will have changed as we prepare for Campaign 2 to come back around, which will be coming in the next year. However, in the meantime, we may be running 2 things. 1 will be a Battle Royale, and 2 will be the quest. Protect Gavin of the Gate.
Gavin!
I love Gavin.
We'll have to see when that happens, if it happens before Campaign 2 or if it happens as a little break in the middle of Campaign 2. We'll have to see when that happens. But for now, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. This has been Crispy Crab signing out. Goodbye.
Porn stars.
Bye.
Bye.